Restaurant owner's heartwarming act for a homeless grandma and child reveals an incredible life dash. Ella swung open the door to Maplewood Diner, the familiar scent of coffee and bacon wrapping around her like a warm hug. This was more than just a diner, it was home, a sanctuary where laughter danced with the clinking of silverware, and every booth was stained with the stories of love, loss, and the occasional heartbreak. But today, the weight of bills loomed heavy on her shoulders, and the flickering neon sign outside felt more like a beacon of despair than hope. As she wiped down the counter, a gust of chilly autumn air swept through the entrance. A glimmer of movement caught her eye. There, huddled together beside the door, was Agnes, a frail, weathered woman, clutching the hand of her spirited 7-year-old granddaughter, Lily. The sight struck Ella's heart like a thunderbolt. Compassion surged through her. "Come in, it's warm inside," Ella offered, her voice soothing. Without hesitation, she ushered them in and pulled out the last slice of homemade pie. The three of them sat at a corner booth as they savored each bite, sweet and comforting against the backdrop of uncertainty. As Agnes spoke, sharing stories of her youthful courage as a decorated veteran, Ella's heart clenched. Gracefully, every word weaved a tapestry of forgotten battles and undying love. In the coming days, Agnes and Lily became part of the diner's fabric. They shared laughter, memories, and, most importantly, hope. Patrons who once judged with skeptical eyes began to find themselves drawn into Agnes's world. They saw her for who she truly was, realizing that every individual, no matter their circumstances, held a story worth listening to. But change is a relentless tide, and just as Ella began to rise with newfound strength, a wealthy developer slinked into town. He had a vision, a flashy complex that would chase away the diner and the community's soul. The tension tightened like a noose around Ella's heart. She was at a crossroads, teetering between holding her ground and the gnawing fear of losing everything she had fought for. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let us continue. As the news of the developer spread, the community stood at a crossroads, facing fears and uncovering their own struggles. Ella organized a town hall meeting. Heartbeats quickened in rhythm with hopeful whispers. All eyes were on her, waiting for her words to set the tone as the room buzzed with anxiety. Suddenly, Agnes rose. Her frail hands trembled but her voice rang with fierce resilience. The stories poured out, yet layered beneath were revelations of untold sacrifices made quietly for this very community. Hope fluttered through the room, igniting a spark long extinguished. But just as Ella began to feel the collective strength of her neighbors, a gut-wrenching truth surfaced: a connection between Agnes and some of the townspeople, shaking the very foundations of their renewed unity. How deep do their connections go? Could it lead to a transformation that would bind them all together? The air buzzed with unspoken questions, the weight of uncertainty clinging to every heart. The atmosphere in Maplewood Diner felt electric as Ella stood behind the counter, her mind racing. She had witnessed so much love and community spirit in the last few weeks, all sparked by Agnes's presence. But now, as they faced this new threat, doubt flooded her veins like ice water. The revealed connections between Agnes and the town's residents felt like a double-edged sword, capable of healing but also tearing them apart. "Why didn't you tell us sooner?" whispered a voice from the back, a young man named Charlie who often sat alone over a cup of coffee, lost in his own world. "I didn't want pity," Agnes replied, her eyes misty but fierce. "I wanted to be seen for who I am now, not just what I've survived." Her words clung to the air, heavy with unspoken truths. Ella's heart quickened. She sensed the crowd's mood shifting. It had become a mixture of admiration for Agnes's strength but also confusion and shame over their ignorance. They had been so focused on their own struggles that they hadn't recognized the intricate web of shared histories that connected them all. As whispers swirled, Lily looked up at Agnes, her wide eyes not quite able to grasp the weight of the moment but full of an innocent curiosity. Ella's heart softened for the little girl, who had become a symbol of hope and renewal for the diner. "Anyone can share a brave story," Ella spoke up, her voice strong and clear, cutting through the uncertainty. "Sometimes it takes one person's courage to awaken the courage in others. Agnes is here now, and we can either learn from it or let it divide us." Moved by her own words, she continued. "We have to stand united if we want to save this diner. If we want to save each other. Together." Nods and murmurs of agreement rippled through the room. Faces softened, and shoulders squared. They were all realizing that they were more connected than they had thought, and that was what made them stronger. As Ella scanned the room, it felt like a tapestry was beginning to weave itself, new threads intertwining with old fabric. But just as hope blossomed like wildflowers despite the fall chill, a loud bang shattered the newfound calm. The diner's front door slammed open, admitting none other than the wealthy developer himself. "Looks like I arrived just in time for a little reunion," he boomed, a smirk dancing on his lips. "I hear your little gathering is all about saving history, but really, how much is it worth?" Shock fell over the crowd, tension rising like steam. The hopeful atmosphere shattered, leaving behind shards of unease. Ella felt the heat of anger rise within her, but she didn't back down. "More than you'll ever know," she countered, standing tall as the community behind her braced for a showdown. Just then, Agnes stepped forward, gripping Lily's hand tightly. "It's worth more than money. It's about connection." The word struck like a bolt of lightning. A murmur of agreement swept through the diners, each face reflecting a commitment to fight for what mattered. But as the weight of the moment hung in the air, a small voice piped up from the back. "What do we do now?" Ella's heart raced. Would they rise together or fall apart? That's when she noticed Agnes's eyes glinting with understanding, a hint of something deeper as she whispered, "Sometimes, the battle is not just against an opponent, but within ourselves." What was Agnes hiding, and would it help them save not only the diner but also the community's spirit? The next steps loomed large as the line in the sand was drawn, and they all wondered how far they were willing to go to protect their home. Ella took a breath, feeling the weight of the developer's presence like a lead balloon pressing down on everyone in the diner. The once vibrant energy flickered, replaced by the cold dread of what was about to unfold. She glanced around at her friends and neighbors, their faces a mix of fear and determination. They were ready to stand their ground, but would they have the strength without shared purpose? From the corner, Charlie shifted uneasily, his fingers fidgeting with the edge of his empty coffee cup. Maybe it was time for him to join the conversation. "We won't stand idly by," he said finally, his voice softer than the others but resolute. "Agnes has shown us that we're more than just individuals. We have to unite for what we care about." "Right." A woman named Marjorie, known for her bakery skills, added with a spark in her eye. "This diner isn't just a building, it's our memories, our lives. We can't let anyone tear that away." Ella felt the tide shifting again, the tension morphing into a collective defiance. She locked eyes with Agnes, who had squeezed Lily's hand tighter, perhaps for reassurance, and sensed the fire building inside her. Agnes's struggle was real, layered, and now it was time to share. "Listen to me," Agnes called out, her voice steady and powerful. "I may have hesitated in the past, but I'm ready to fight for this place with you all. I didn't just come here for myself. I came to mark a new chapter not just for me, but for all of us." More murmurs arose, gathering strength like a brewing storm. The developer huffed, leaning against the counter with an arrogant smirk. "And what do you think this will accomplish? Hollow threats? You think a few emotional speeches are enough to stop progress?" "No," Ella cut in, her courage surging as she stepped forward. "It's not about threats. It's about heart. That's something money can't buy. You might have the power to build, but we have the power to love." The heat in the air amplified as fists clenched and heads nodded in agreement. Ella's heart raced, a cocktail of fear and exhilaration coursing through her. Could they really stand against him? What if we pooled our resources? Marjorie proposed quickly, fanning the flames of unity. "If we can show him our strength, maybe we can push him out." A fervent dialogue spilled forth, ideas bouncing from one person to the next. Suggestions, support, enthusiasm trickled into the atmosphere, baking contests to raise funds, community events to draw in crowds. Everyone wanted to pitch in, contribute, but while they talked, Ella could see the developer's expression shift from amusement to irritation. He realized his facade of power was slipping, and that only made him angrier. "You think you can stop progress with nostalgia?" he snapped. But Ella, emboldened and fueled by Agnes's bravery, replied, "No. We're not fighting for nostalgia. We're fighting for our future. A future that honors our past." Then, the room fell silent. Each person felt the weight of her words, an unexpected bond weaving through their hearts. There was strength in vulnerability. What had once been a collection of individual battles was morphing into something much bigger. Just when Ella thought they had cornered the developer, Agnes spoke up once more. "Every community has scars, but together, we can turn them into stories of survival. We're not defined by our losses but by our strength to overcome. This diner is our heart." As her words echoed in the diner, Ella grasped the deep meaning behind them. They have to stand strong, not only against the developer but against their own fears and uncertainties. The crowd's energy was palpable, but something still nagged at her. Were they truly ready for this fight? Would they band together in times of hardship, or would they falter under pressure? In that moment of uncertainty, she caught a glimpse of Lily's small hand, still holding tightly onto Agnes's. The innocence and determination in the child's eyes sparked something in Ella, hope mixed with a healthy dose of apprehension. As the developer opened his mouth to retort, Ella took a deep breath, ready to face whatever came next, knowing their battle was just beginning. With hearts united, they were prepared to protect not just a building, but their home. But would it be enough? As the developer's laugh echoed ominously through the diner, dominating the moment, Ella knew they had to act soon before hope turned to despair again. What would their next step be in this fight for their community? The diner fell into a tense silence, the only sound being the clinking of dishes in the back. It felt like an eternity as everyone waited for the developer's next move. Ella's heart hammered in her chest. With every second spent in uncertainty, doubt crept back in. Would they look back and regret not acting sooner? As the developer straightened and sneered, Ella could see the contempt in his eyes. "You really think a bunch of heartfelt speeches can change the wheels of progress?" he challenged, his voice dripping with mockery. "People like me don't get pushed around by emotional outbursts." But Ella didn't falter. "You may have money, but we're rich in something you'll never understand: community." Her own voice surprised her, coming out strong and clear amidst the frenzy. It sent a shiver through her, waking something inside, a strength she didn't know she had. "I've seen what caring can do. My grandma used to say, a community sticks together like butter on bread. We stand by each other, especially in hard times." Charlie jumped in, emboldened by Ella's words. He barely looked at the developer, his focus solely on his community. "Let us show him just how solid this bread is." As more voices joined in, resonating with determination, the words morphed into an anthem. "Meetings," shouted Marjorie. "We need to organize. Every voice matters." They were piecing together a plan, something tangible that could turn the tide. Ideas sparked and spread like wildfire. Talent showcases, bake sales, and even petitions to gather signatures flowed freely, bubbling with a newfound energy. Laughter erupted sporadically, lighting the atmosphere as neighbors began to see the possibilities, but Ella felt a twist of anxiety within her, worried that some might lose their drive when faced with the cold, harsh reality of what lay ahead. She took a moment to scan the crowd, seeking assurance in their faces. There they were, her friends, family, neighbors. Each one was backlit by hope, but how long could they sustain it? The fire in their hearts could only burn bright for so long before it needed nurturing. In that moment, a familiar voice choked up over the chatter. It was Agnes, her eyes shimmering as she tore away from her daughter's embrace. "What we have is even more powerful than the fight itself," she said softly. "It's the bond we share." Ella blinked back tears, realizing how much everyone had come to mean to her. This wasn't just about saving a diner. It was about the love and connections woven throughout their lives. They all understood despair, but they also understood joy, and somehow, that made all the difference. With renewed energy, they began to draft an official statement, a statement about community unity. Ella felt a surge of pride. It was more than just words, it was a promise. But just when the group began to gel into one cohesive force, the door swung open violently, pulling them back to the present. The developer stepped in, storming back into their midst, frustration radiating from him like heat off asphalt. Enough of this nonsense. You can't fight progress. Ella's heart dropped. This was it. The confrontation was about to escalate, and they needed to stick together or risk falling apart. A collective inhale filled the diner, tension thickening the air. As she steadied herself, Ella realized there was no turning back. They wouldn't be bullied or silenced. This wouldn't just be a moment of defiance but a movement born from equal parts fear and fierce love. With everyone's eyes on her, Ella took a courageous step forward. This isn't just about our diner or our memories, it's about our future, the future of every family here. What will you do to stop us from fighting for that? The developer scowled, and for the briefest moment, uncertainty crossed his face. What would he respond with? Would he escalate, retreat, or try to pit them against one another? Ella held her breath, the next seconds feeling like a lifetime. The answer to their struggle was on the tip of his tongue, but would it spell doom or define their strength? Do you really think this is a winning battle? The developer leaned forward, his imposing silhouette blocking the light. Your future. You think that crusty old diner offers anything worthwhile to your community? It's a relic, a chain around your neck. All eyes were glued to Ella, whose heartbeat thundered in her ears. She could see the flickers of doubt in some faces, but she refused to let the developer's words cut through their resolve. Maybe it's a relic, she replied boldly, finding strength in the unity she felt surrounding her, but it's our relic. It's a place filled with laughter and memories. It's where families gathered, where friendships blossomed. The developer smirked. Nostalgia won't pay the bills, lady. Those memories won't put food on your table. Ella took a calming breath, drawing from the energy of the community pressing behind her. You know what? She shot back. Maybe you're right. But families don't just need food. They need connection, support, love. We'll fill this diner with more than meals, we'll fill it with hope. And we're not backing down. A murmur of agreement rippled through the diner. It surged like a wave, fueled by every shared meal, every long night spent talking over coffee. Ella could feel the momentum building, and with it came a flicker of inspiration. Let us take the fight to him. Charlie shouted, standing taller. Let us organize an event at the diner. A festival to show what we're made of. Yeah. Echoed Marjorie. We'll showcase everything this community has to offer, the talents, the hearts, the stories. We have artists, musicians, bakers. Let us make it happen, then. Ella cried out, her voice slicing through the thick tension. Let us show the town who we are and what we stand for. We are pride, joy, resilience. The developer scoffed, crossing his arms. A festival? That's your grand plan? How quaint. Enjoy your little charade. I'll be waiting for the first signs of defeat. Ella locked eyes with him, feeling the determination in every person standing with her. Then brace yourself. Because this isn't just a festival. It's our stand. Cheers erupted around her, infusing the diner with energy brighter than any overhead light bulbs could summon. They huddled in clusters, brainstorming ideas, each person's voice lifting the weight of apprehension. Ella dashed among them, scribbling notes, her heart swelling with pride. They were no longer just individuals on the sidelines, they were a force digesting the fears and insecurities that had lingered for too long, but in the back of her mind, the developer's words gnawed at her. Could they really succeed against a giant like him? Okay, guys, Charlie said, breaking her train of thought. Let us set a date. We have to rally everyone. But we need to get the word out. Social media, flyers, everything. As they coordinated efforts, they each felt less like lonely voices and more like pieces of a compelling puzzle coming together. Each commitment was like the crackling of a match striking a fire, igniting enthusiasm and connection. Yet, Ella couldn't shake the unease coil tightly wound in her stomach. This was just the beginning. It would take everything they had to turn the developer's doubt against him. Suddenly, a familiar figure appeared in the doorway. It was Agnes again, her face lined with worry and hope. "Ella," she called out, fear gripping her voice. "I heard there's a storm brewing, they might come for you." Ella's heart sank, panic flooding her senses. The developer wouldn't stop until he put an end to their ambitions. "Then we take precautions." Ella clenched her fists. "We'll show him we're more than just a diner, we're a family. And family fights for each other, no matter the storm." As she scanned the room, voices lifted again, a chorus of determination rising and echoing. But beneath it all, the weight of looming tension pressed down, like clouds before a storm. Ella couldn't shake the feeling that the real confrontation was still to come. Would they be ready when it arrived? The day of the festival dawned bright and clear, sunlight streaming through the windows of the diner, illuminating faces filled with hope. Ella stood at the front, heart racing as she greeted the community members pouring in. Freshly baked goods wafted through the air, the comforting scent of cinnamon, vanilla, and warm bread. People carried handmade signs, each more colorful than the last, showcasing talents and stories, uniting them all under one roof. "Look at this!" Charlie exclaimed, pointing to an intricate painting one of the local artists had put up. "This is amazing!" Marjorie pushed through the crowd, a plate of pastries balanced carefully in her hands. "Ella, we need to set up the music stage before the musicians arrive." Ella nodded, her adrenaline surging as they moved, one heartbeat pulsing through the crowd. Each laugh, each cheerful shout painted the room with a shade of resilience. Yet, her thoughts flickered back to that night, the developer's harsh words and the warning from Agnes. Despite the joy surrounding her, anxiety buzzed under the surface like an unseen threat. "Everything feels great, doesn't it?" Charlie asked, catching her eye. He noticed the flicker of worry behind her smile. "We're going to show him. We've got this." Still, unease pooled in her stomach like lead. The storm might be here, just not the one she could see. As the event kicked off, laughter spilled over the walls. Families gathered, children danced, and the band started playing upbeat folk tunes that lifted spirits. Ella felt pride swell within her. All around the diner, joy flourished, old stories revived with every shared moment. This was their collective heartbeat. Then, as Ella guided a group of kids to the arts and crafts table, she caught sight of a figure leaning against the diner's entrance. It was Agnes, visibly shaken, her breath escaping in quick gasps. She rushed over, concern etched on her face. "Ella," she warned, a tremor in her voice. "There are some unfamiliar faces nearby, I think they're with the developer." Ella's heart dropped. The shadow of opposition had arrived much sooner than she had anticipated. "What do we do?" she asked, glancing around, trying to gauge the growing energy in the room. "Let us keep things going here. We can't let fear take over." Agnes took Ella's hands in hers, squeezing them with urgency. "They thrive on disruption. Don't give them that power." Ella breathed deeply as a sea of voices swelled around them. The children laughed, cookies were being munched, and vendors pulled in customers with smiles. "You're right," she said, returning determination to her voice. "We have to protect this. Let us keep spirits high." But just as she prepared to make an announcement, a harsh voice tore through the atmosphere like thunder, signaling a crack in their bubble of happiness. "What is going on here?" The developer's voice was sharp, demanding attention. Ella's heart leaped. She turned slowly to face him, every inch of her vibrating with defensive energy. "We're celebrating our community. You can't take that away from us." His eyes gleamed with disdain. "This is pathetic. A festival won't change anything. You think this little gathering matters?" The crowd stilled, and for a brief moment, it felt like the air had been sucked out. But slowly, an elderly man from the back spoke up, his voice trembling but strong. "It matters to us. This diner matters to us." Cheers erupted, voices rising in unity and love. The developer sneered, but Ella caught the flicker of uncertainty behind his bravado. Could they really shift the tide? Just then, Agnes elbowed her side. "Ella, look." In the crowd, a little girl with wide blue eyes stepped forward, clutching a crayon-colored sign that read, "Home is where the diner is." Tears blurred Ella's vision. "What will you do now?" Agnes whispered beside her, mirroring both excitement and fear. But before Ella could answer, she felt courage bounce in her chest. "I'll stand my ground," she proclaimed, lifting her head high, rallying their hearts. But in the depths of her mind, doubt loomed like shadows against the sunlight. Would her bravery be enough to face the storm gathering beyond the doors? The confrontation was far from over, and the stakes felt higher than ever. With every heartbeat, the question lingered: how could they protect the heart of their community when the real fight had only just begun? Ella took a deep breath, letting the warmth of the crowd seep into her. They were here together, united. The love in this little diner battled against the developer's contempt. But would it be enough? "Listen," Ella called out, raising her voice above the murmur. "This diner has made memories for all of us. Each meal shared here, every laugh, every tear, they hold our stories." She paused, looking into the eyes of familiar faces: friends, neighbors, her community. "It matters, each and every one of us matters." Cheers erupted once again, but Ella could feel the weight of the developer's presence weighing down the moment, his figure casting a shadow over their joy. She stepped forward, giving her all to maintain the energy. "This is about standing together, about fighting for a place that feels like home. We will not let fear win." The developer smirked, but uneasy murmurs rippled through the crowd around him. Ella's resolve was turning the tide, and she sensed it. The elderly man who had spoken earlier pushed his way closer, his voice quaking yet firm. "We're not just a place. We're family. We're memories." Agnes, standing beside Ella, squeezed her hand tighter, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. Ella knew the fight was far from over. The weight of her community's hopes rested on her shoulders now. "Let us show him," Agnes whispered fiercely. Just then, a small voice piped up from the crowd. "I painted the sign." It was the little girl again, her face shining with pride. "I want to keep coming here. I don't want it to go away." Ella's heart fluttered at the innocence of her words. "And we won't let it go away," she declared. "Not now, not ever." The developer shifted his weight, adjusting his posture, as restless whispers danced through the crowd. Ella caught sight of Charlie, moving in to rally people around, urging them to share their own stories about the diner. Hearts opened and voices rose, tales of laughter shared, moments of comfort found. "Remember that time we had our first open mic night here?" A woman shouted from the back, laughter threading through her sentences. Ella sang, "And we all danced like mad." "Or when we raised money to save little Benny's dog." Another voice added, lighting up the atmosphere. Laughter mingled with cheers as the community recounted cherished memories, drowning out the developer's dismissive glares. Each story was another brick fortifying their defense. They were not just fighting for a building, they were defending a tapestry woven with love and shared experiences. Yet amidst the jubilation, Ella felt the developer's gaze sharp, his confidence returning as he shot back. "You all believe in this place? You think it changes anything?" The crowd faltered momentarily, but the tension was palpable, ready to ignite once more. Ella's heart raced as she realized this moment could turn either way. "It changes everything," she shouted in defiance. "Love changes everything. Together we can stand against anyone who tries to pull us apart." But what if the whispers behind the developer's stone-hearted facade had some truth? What if their love, their efforts, wouldn't be enough for the likes of him? As she searched the crowd, Ella noticed a glimmer of movement toward the corner of the diner, more unfamiliar faces. They were watching. The weight of their gaze was heavy. Who were they, and what were they planning? A sense of dread gripped her heart. Ella knew they had to push forward, but uncertainty lingered like thick fog in her mind. Was unity enough to face the storm? With the stakes higher than ever, one burning question trailed in the wake of her thoughts: what would it take to truly protect their home? And as the crowd's energy swelled around her, a deeper fear rooted itself in her heart: would they stand together, or would the community they loved crumble under pressure? Ella's pulse raced as she scanned the crowd again, and her heart sank deeper when she recognized the unfamiliar faces. Who were these people? The glances exchanged among them filled her with dread rather than hope. She could feel the weight of uncertainty pressing down, and for a moment, the celebratory atmosphere felt thin, fragile. "Stay strong," she called out, her voice steady, but inside, doubt threatened to bubble over. What if they were confronting more than just a developer's greed? What if they were about to face something darker, an indifference that ran deeper than any bricks and mortar? The developer smirked again, sensing the shift in the air. He picked at his nails and shrugged, a picture of nonchalance. "You think you can change my mind? What you've built here is nothing but an old facade pretending to be home." He turned to the crowd, his voice dripping with disdain. "You're barking up the wrong tree. I can erase you without a second thought." Ella's hand trembled slightly as memories flooded her mind: mornings spent rallying customers, evenings filled with laughter and warmth, knowing that each cup of coffee served held a story. A sudden flash of her own childhood memories rushed in. Sitting at the very booths they battled for, dreaming about the future with the friends she cherished. Those moments mattered, they built who she was. "Maybe it isn't just about brick and mortar," she called back, her voice rising in defiance. "Those stories, those moments, they are what hold us together. You can't erase love." The crowd echoed her sentiments, voices intertwining in a powerful chorus of unity. Ella felt a rush of determination. She may have felt uncertain, but standing there, she realized they were all connected by something deeper than this physical space. As she stood at the forefront, the glimmer of the unfamiliar figures in the corner began to grow clearer. To her surprise, she saw they were holding signs, supportive splashes of color in the sea of intense emotion. They had made their own banners, the slogans clear and heartwarming. Ella leaned in, her heart softening. There were handwritten words like "Save Our Diner" and "Food for the Soul" displayed proudly. The hidden camaraderie began to emerge, pulling her focus back toward the movement that sparked after those whispers in her gut. Maybe they weren't enemies after all. Her gaze darted back to the developer. "See? We're not alone. You may think you hold all the power, but we hold the heart." "Yeah." A strong voice came from the crowd, rallying support. "And we're not going down without a fight." She watched as the bustle around her transformed, where tension faded into budding hope. The crowd was rising like a wave, each person bringing their own stories as part of the collective. Everyone began to flourish in their fight, rallying together. A woman stepped forward, her arm raised. "You know what? This isn't just about saving a diner. It's about our community. We have something worth standing for." As cement-stained worries cascaded like the pitcher of iced tea left unattended, Ella could feel her strength growing. They had no idea what the developer had in mind, but one thing was certain: they would face whatever came their way together. Then, like a hot iron pressing into her heart, Ella caught sight of a little boy who had been sitting quietly. His face was solemn yet determined. Intrigued, she approached him. "What's your name, buddy?" "Jay," he said softly, but Ella could see sparks of resilience flicker in his eyes. "I love the diner. It's South, my favorite place. I don't want it to go." Ella knelt beside him, compassion igniting inside her. "Neither do I, Jay. We're going to do everything we can to keep it." But the developer's plans remained clouded. As the crowd pulsed with energy, Ella's worried mind wandered back. What if the support they felt was simply an illusion? What if this thrust into their fight for preservation would lead them down a path they weren't ready to tread? Ella took a deep breath, determined to hold on to hope, but with new questions burning in her heart. Would their resilience be strong enough to combat the developer's ruthless ambition, or would it only serve to awaken a much bigger battle ahead? As Ella glanced over at Jay, she knew one truth: they needed to uncover the developer's intentions before it was too late. It was then she realized she had to get the answers, and fast. Would they be able to connect the dots before the shadows closing and took away everything they believed in? Ella took a step back, surveying the crowd that had gathered around her, unified in purpose. Hope hung in the air like the aroma of fresh coffee. She could feel the heartbeat of the diner pulsing through each enthusiastic cheer. If they were going to save this place, they would need to act smart, not just loud. "Let us gather our strength and resources," she yelled, rallying her newfound allies. "We need to find out everything we can about this developer. Who is he, really? What are his plans?" A middle-aged man stepped forward, eyebrows furrowed in concentration. "I've heard he has been trying to buy out small businesses around town, but there's more to it than that. He has connections. We need to be careful." Ella nodded, heart racing. She needed intel, something concrete to stand on. "Who can help us?" "I need volunteers to dig up information. We must know his weaknesses." A woman with a warm smile raised her hand. "Count me in, Ella. I used to work in real estate. I can make some calls." The crowd erupted in supportive murmurs, energy building. Ella watched in amazement as people chimed in with skills and resources. There was a lawyer, a journalist, and even a tech-savvy teenager who promised to set up a social media campaign. They were gathering momentum like a freight train, and she felt it swelling inside her. This was a community, fighting against a common threat. Just as a wave of optimism washed over the crowd, Ella noticed Jay peering at her, a small frown creasing his brows. She knelt down, brushing aside her overwhelming emotions for a moment. "What's on your mind, kiddo? Are we going to lose the diner?" His voice quivered, innocence splattering against the hard walls of reality. Ella searched for the right words, feeling the weight of so many hopes resting on her shoulders. "Not if we have anything to say about it, Jay. We are going to fight for it." As Jay nodded, a spark of determination ignited in his eyes. Ella straightened up again, her posture proud and fierce. "We will meet here every day. We'll strategize, build our plans, and show that we are more than just a building. We are a family." The cheers rose again, louder now, fueled by the promise of action. But in the back of her mind, worry simmered. How would they fight against the unseen power of corporate greed? Days turned into a blur. Meetings filled the diner with laughter and planning. Ella felt hope blooming, but she still couldn't shake the unsettling feeling in her gut. They were fighting something that felt like a beast lurking in the shadows, waiting to strike when least expected. One evening, while packing up after a long day of strategizing, she overheard two elders talking quietly in a corner. Their voices wavered, tinged with anxiety. "Have you heard the rumors about the plans beneath the surface? Bigger developers backing him. It's not just the diner at stake." Ella's heart quickened. What did they mean? She needed to dig deeper. The next morning, she reached for her phone and began to scroll through local news articles. As she searched, a headline caught her eye. A previous project by the developer had left the community in ruins. Cities hollowed out, businesses crushed. Fear coursed through her. It wasn't just the diner, it was everyone's homes, their lives. Should she share what she found with the community? Or would it incite panic? Would it break the fragile hope they had built? Sitting on her couch, a storm of emotions swirled within her. Could she really tell them the truth? And if they knew, would it empower them or completely shatter their resolve? As the weight of the choice pressed down on her, Ella realized she could no longer delay. The time for answers was now. What if embracing the truth could ignite a fire inside the community, a fire that could turn their fight into something unstoppable? Would they rally together in fear or rise to conquer the shadows that threatened them? It was time to make a decision, and deep down, Ella knew the resolution could change everything. The sun hung low in the sky, casting warm golden hues through the diner windows. Today was the day they would put everything on the line. Ella could feel the hum of anxious excitement buzzing through her veins as she stood at the front of the Maplewood Diner, her friends and neighbors gathering around one last time. "Today, we stand together. she shouted, her voice ringing with fierce determination. We've fought too hard and come too far to let anyone tear us apart. This diner is not just a restaurant, it's our heart. It's where our stories live. The crowd nodded, eyes glinting with hope and shared purpose. Agnes stood beside her, holding Lily's hand, the strength in Agnes's frail frame inspiring them all. Today we show the world how powerful community can be, she declared, her voice strong. Ella took a deep breath, rallying her thoughts. The developer had threatened their home, but they refused to let fear win. They had worked tirelessly over the past few weeks, gathering information, spreading the word through social media, and reaching out to kindred spirits throughout the town. The resilience blossomed within every heart, love over fear, hope over despair. Remember, she continued, we're not just fighting for this diner. We're fighting for each other, the families, the memories, and the connections that bind us together. Our stories matter. As the crowd erupted in applause and cheers, she could feel solidarity binding them, a collective heartbeat resonating through the diner. Charlie stood with a bright smile, nodding in agreement. We've got this, Ella. We're ready to face whatever comes. A sudden hush filled the air, and the tension curled around them as the developer emerged on the scene, flanked by a group of serious-looking people in suits. He smirked, oozing confidence mixed with arrogance. I see you've all gathered for your little fairy tale, he said, staring down the crowd. But remember, fairy tales are just stories. They're not real. Ella could feel her heart thudding in her chest. Oh, they're very real, she shot back. And they're about to come to life right here in front of you. Lily stood at her grandma's side, clutching the painted sign that read "Home is where the diner is." Her innocent enthusiasm shone through, reminding Ella of everything they were truly fighting for. The developer crossed his arms and scoffed. You think a day of festivities is going to change my mind? I'll bulldoze this place and turn it into something that brings real growth. Ella stepped forward, her chin raised defiantly. You may have the power and the money, but that doesn't make you stronger than our love for this community. We're not just a diner, we're connected through shared laughter, tears, and stories told over countless cups of coffee. Another voice rang out from the crowd, this time an elderly man who had often frequented the diner. If it weren't for this place, I wouldn't have met my best friend. It's where we've forged bonds that can't be ripped apart. Exactly. Ella exclaimed, her heart soaring with each new voice that joined. Today, we come together to celebrate not just our memories, but our future. You might try to buy it, but you'll never take away our sense of belonging. As she spoke, she noticed some of the developer's companions shifting uncomfortably, exchanging uncertain glances. Maybe, just maybe, their confident facade was starting to crack. The developer glared at the crowd, but the unity grew stronger. The sounds of laughter and stories floated across the diner, each one a thread pulling the community closer together. Ella caught sight of Agnes and Lily, and the love they shared in that moment lifted her spirit. There's only one fairy tale I see today, Ella said. It's the one where community triumphs over greed, where kindness beats out profit, and where understanding rises like a phoenix. We want to let you take that away from us. With every word, the weight of the crowd behind her surged, their voices melded into a harmonious roar that echoed through the diner walls and spilled out onto the street. The warmth wrapped around her like a familiar quilt, stitching together their resolve, and then, something magical happened. Slowly, one by one, the townspeople joined hands, forming a human chain of solidarity that stretched from one side of the diner to the other and beyond. Ella's heart surged, breathing merriment into the air around them. They were all in this together, holding each other up. The developer stood frozen, his confidence now wavering as he took in the unwavering spirit of the community before him. You can't seriously think this little gathering will deter me, he mumbled, though even his tone betrayed uncertainty. Do you feel it? Someone yelled from the crowd. This is our home. Exactly. Ella shouted back, her voice ringing. And we're not going anywhere. We'll stand as one, together, just as we have always, because that's how family fights. This isn't just a diner, this is our history, our future. The developer backed up a step, his earlier bravado crumbling under the weight of their unity. "This place isn't worth any of your stories or connections," he retorted, but there was less conviction behind his words now. "You're wrong," Ella exclaimed. "We are worth fighting for. Every smile, every tear, those moments in our lives are priceless." The warmth of the community tangled in her heart, lifting her spirit as the crowd erupted once more into cheers, their hopes and dreams soaring higher than any building he could ever erect. As the celebration spread outside, illuminating the diner like a beacon of community strength, she knew this wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. In that moment, Ella saw not just the diner but the vibrant pulse of the town, a love for each person, each story, each shared experience. Together they could and would face whatever storms lay ahead, united in purpose, driven by the bonds of their shared humanity. As the developer hesitated, Ella felt a shift, a crack in the armor of corporate indifference. She lifted her head proudly, reflecting the hopes and determination of those around her. The fight for community was not merely for a diner, it was a fight for their heart and soul, and with that, she knew, they would prevail. They would preserve their home, their stories, and their vibrant legacy. Today, they had forged an unbreakable bond in the face of adversity. Their love for each other was the truest treasure, and it would shine brighter than any neon sign ever could. Now was the time for action, for courage, and for unwavering hope. And as they stood united, lifting their voices as one, Ella felt the power of love, community, and connection wash over them all, steering them toward a future rich with promise. This was their moment, and they were ready to seize it. If you felt this journey with us, you need to subscribe now. Don't wait not even one more second to share your feelings and support. Smash that like button to help spread our message and comment on your reactions below. Let us keep this momentum and share it with at least 5 friends who could use this inspiration. This is the moment to show your support to keep us going, and you are a part of this incredible community.